Hi everyone, here is the tray I prepared in 3D resin, part 1. Hopefully I can do better in this one and you won't laugh at me anymore. Oh, you can laugh, that's okay. Here is the first little turtle that I've started painting in acrylics. As you can see, it's pretty rough. You paint it right on top of the resin. Don't be afraid. If you make a mistake, you can always scrape it off. Here you see I've painted 3 little turtles. You don't have to paint them to this detail, but it helps me to understand what I'm going for. The little turtle in the bottom left corner doesn't have any flippers. That's because he's diving, and I'll paint them later. They'll actually be painted in the next layer of resin. I wasn't sure I was going, but I decided to add a little baby turtle. I've now added another maybe a little bit 1/4 inch of resin to the next layer. So here you see I'm adding more detail to the upper hand turtle. Here I have decided he has enough detail for now. This turtle I found a little bit more difficult to paint because I had to wrap my mind around the fact that he was diving. So I had all kinds of different color all over the place. So in order to add depth, I paint mostly the tips of his flippers and the back of his shell and leave his head alone. It's going to give the illusion that he's diving. Here I paint his flippers. Now after I pour the next layer of resin, I will probably only paint the back of the shell and just his flippers to give the illusion that he's deeper in the water. I like this guy, he's pretty colorful. So in this layer of resin, I mainly paint his head, the back of his flippers, and the top of his shell to give the illusion that he's coming up out of the water. A couple important points I want to make right here is that these little tiny brushes really come in handy. Also, when you're painting, in order to fade out, the best thing you can use is a matte medium. I'm painting opaquely at the top of his shell, but I'm using the matte medium clear to fade off down to the bottom of his shell to give the illusion of depth. If you do that, it makes for a nice transition. You don't want to do too much of it, but it just will give you a nice transition and you won't see a stopping and a starting point. I could barely see this little guy, so I had to give him a little bit more contrast and darkness, so he stood out after I got done with him. So of course I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, I like it, but man, Turtle Cove is just a little bit bare. Like any artist, I just do not know where to stop. After looking through all my reference photos, I decided I wanted to paint a mama with a baby on the back, of course. So that's what I started doing. So here you have it. That's the start. I also wanted to point out that it's real easy if you make a mistake to scrape the paint off the top of this resin. I have these ceramic brushes that have little scrapers on the bottom, and it's real easy to get the paint off. So if you make a boo-boo, just scrape it off. Okay, there you see Mama in the next layer of resin, getting ready for the baby on her back as soon as it's ready. And I'll catch you on the next layer. Oh, and hey, if you think this one's a little bit less of a fiasco, like and subscribe, please.